I want to get to Mike Florio, kind enough to join us on short notice. And his new book, by the way, is a must. Playmakers comes out March 15th, can be purchased both online or wherever books are sold. Mike sent me an advance copy, and there's a lot of good stuff in there. Didn't autograph it, but there's a lot of good stuff in there. Mike joins us now. No autograph,
Fake news. You are fake news. I autographed it. I signed it.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, you haven't even opened it.
No, I did. I opened it to the actual chapters, not the first couple of pages.
Open up the cover.
Okay.
And there's a lovely inscription.
Damn.
It may bring a tear to your eye. Probably won't. But I did sign it.
Paulie, do you know where I have Florio's book?
Paul's going to look for it.
Okay.
Where do you keep the garbage?
Yeah.
I think, do you got it right there, Paulie? No, I got it right here. It's really close to me. Okay, let's see what it says. Here's Mike Florio's Playmakers, How the NFL Really Works and It Doesn't. DP, thanks for your friendship and support over the years, Mike Florio. Well, that's not really,
I know.
tearjerker.
I did sign it, but I did sign it.
How about thank you for my career? I never would have had this career without you, Dan.
That's true. That's true. But I've already told you that separately, so I needed to come up with something different.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for my career.
Help me understand.
You have it back now.
Help me understand the Sean McVay situation, and does it affect Kevin O'Connell? Is it real it would affect Kevin O'Connell taking the Vikings job?
Well, we learned 4 years ago in a Super Bowl that was played in the stadium where the Vikings play their home games, that none of this stuff's ever done until it's done. And I keep seeing reports about what the Vikings are going to do. I'm waiting for the report that it's done. I want to see the signature from Kevin O'Connell on the last page of the contract. And until it happens, we saw McDaniels jilt the Colts. Now, there's no real reason right now to think it's going to happen. But if Stan Kroenke's working behind the scenes, he's the owner of the Rams, obviously, and he's like, hey, Sean, what are you going to do? I think it's too early for the Sean McVay situation to come to a head where Stan Kroenke would have to pivot to Kevin O'Connell. And he's got Raheem Morris, the defensive coordinator, if McVay does leave. So it's not as critical as it would be. But if McVay would exit like today, which no one thinks that's going to happen, you'd have to wonder whether or not Kroenke would want to try to keep Kevin O'Connell. But I get the impression McVay is kind of sitting back and waiting to see if one of these networks makes him an offer that either he can't refuse or that he can't resist taking to Kroenke and saying, hey, they're going to pay me $15 million. You're paying me X. Are you going to pay me more or not? And I think that's fair game. I think McVay's in a great spot now. Somebody's either going to make him an offer that he says, wow, okay, I'm leaving for ESPN or wherever, or Kroenke's going to pay him. Either way, he's going to get paid.
Okay, so Aaron Donald, is that a leverage play as well?
It could be. He's due to make $55 million over the next 3 years, about $18 million in change. He puts a lot of himself into his offseason preparation. LA is a long way away from Pittsburgh. He's a Pittsburgh guy. And hey, having flown from Pittsburgh to LA and LA to Pittsburgh 9 days apart, it's like two different worlds. And he's out there for 5 months out of the year. And I think that's wearing on him after 8 years. So you want to make it worth his while? He's currently doing it for $18 million, $9 million under the top of the market for a defensive lineman. Maybe that gets his attention and gets him to do it again. But I really do think he's seriously considering calling it quits while he's at the pinnacle of the profession after 8 years and after putting a lot of himself into his game.
I was also wondering about Odell Beckham Jr. with this knee injury, knee surgery. At some point, does he start to look at what's next? Could you see him in the media? Could you see him as a studio analyst here? And what would be that value?
Well, I mean, he always brings value because of who he is. But as you know, at some point, you have to actually do the job. And there are plenty of former players who become analysts, and they don't really become analysts. You have to become a fan of the game. You have to think like a fan thinks. You have to follow the sport like a fan follows the sport, or you quickly lose relevance. You quickly make no sense. It can't just be, well, this is what we did. This is what I did. This is what I know from when I played. You've got to be a true student of the game. And I don't know that he cares about football enough to make that pivot. Maybe he does. But you're right, Dan. Look, same ACL, torn twice. And Michael David Smith from PFT pointed out yesterday that when he did it the last time, it was like 11 months before he was cleared to play again. He'll miss all of the season, or at least all of the regular season, if he has that same trajectory with the same injury to the same knee. I mean, that was heartbreaking for him. He could have been the MVP of the game the way he was playing. The Rams lost the air out of the balloon when he got injured, and they almost didn't get it back in time.
We're talking to Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk Live co-host with Chris Sims. You can watch that on Peacock. I know that Matthew Stafford, is he a Hall of Famer, was a big topic. I think we ran out of topics, so it's like Matthew Stafford, a Hall of Famer, question mark. But I have to give Matthew Stafford credit for two things. Megatron's season, that was the greatest season we had seen by a wide receiver. And now Cooper Kupp's, which is the greatest receiving year that we've ever had. It doesn't feel like he gets any credit of that. You're like, oh, that's right. He was Calvin Johnson's quarterback. Where do you stand with Matthew Stafford right now?
Well, Matthew Stafford suffered through 12 seasons in Detroit where he was pretty much alone, but for Calvin Johnson. And they did have Ndamukong Suh for a while, but it's a dysfunctional organization, and they never were able to put together a consistent winner. Now, there have been times where I was concerned that he wasn't as forceful from a personality standpoint as a Peyton Manning or a Tom Brady would be, and he kind of tolerated not being part of a great team. Maybe he should have forced himself out of that situation earlier, but he can make all the throws. I mean, you've seen the video, the no-look throw to Cooper Kupp. He's always been like that. He was Patrick Mahomes before we learned about Patrick Mahomes. The guy's got incredible arm talent, and when you look at the all-time statistics, he's already 12th in passing yardage, 12th in passing touchdowns, and he just turned 34 last week. So this whole idea of is he a Hall of Famer, to me, it's ridiculous because he's got 5 more years left. I don't know how long he's going to play. There's many chapters left in this book. He could win another Super Bowl. If he gets another Super Bowl, he's clearly a Hall of Famer. He could finish in the top 5 of passing yardage. Of course, that puts you clearly in the discussion. So, and I respect the fact that, you know, he's not a guy who's very demonstrative. We don't get a lot of videos of him chewing people out on the sideline. We don't get a lot of hot take reports about whether he's selfish or immature. There isn't that kind of stuff. And, you know, it's hard to stand out if you're not that way. But his play does all the talking for him, and people are starting to appreciate it more now that he's with a better team.
What should we keep an eye on with Deshaun Watson's offseason?
Well, we've been expecting or hoping or waiting for some sort of a resolution as to the criminal probe, the prosecution, potential prosecution. Grand jury work was supposed to be done the end of January. Now that we're clear of the Super Bowl, I need to go back and see where that stands. You got 22 lawsuits that are moving forward. Now that the Super Bowl's over, he can be questioned under oath by Tony Busby, who represents the 22 individuals. And, you know, the problem is it's so obvious he needs to put these cases behind him to continue his career that gives Tony Busby more leverage when it's time to negotiate a settlement. They had 18 of these 22 cases ready to work out back in late October, so he could have been traded to the Dolphins. There were 4 holdouts. The value of that case keeps going up and up and up if you know he's got to settle these in order to get back to the NFL. So at some point, they just have to sit down and work this out. He needs to work out satisfactorily to the individuals who claim they were victimized by Watson, something that allows him to put it behind him. But, you know, the problem, Dan, is the quarterback carousel is going to start spinning. Seats are going to get filled. And maybe the teams he wants to go to will have moved on. So it's going to be a challenge for them to get this taken care of.
The book is Playmakers. It's Mike Florio's book. March 15th, can be purchased online wherever books are sold. Thank you, Mike.
Thanks, Dan.
And Florio will autograph it for you. He'll come to your house and autograph it for you.